Hey guys, Dev here at WeBuyHouses.com. Welcome to Cash Offer Masterclass episode 31. Today we're going to build on what we talked about in episode 30. So if you haven't watched that yet, you might want to. That's where I talked to you about calculating months supply in your market using Zillow and what the significance of months supply means, particularly if you see it growing or even decreasing in time in your market. If it's growing, your market's slowing down. If it's decreasing, your market is accelerating as far as the rate of transactions that are going on. So today we're going to do a couple of special things. Ultimately, we're going to look at this house here, which is in Cuney, Texas, Cuney. I have never heard of Cuney, Texas. On Zillow, it actually shows it as Jacksonville. Jacksonville is kind of the big city next to Cuney. I think Cuney has a population of 116 or something like that. So it kind of gets lumped into a slightly larger town next to it there on Zillow. We're going to look at that. But before we do, I wanted to just show you a couple of other houses and a few other things that are going on. Also today, we're going to refine our search for months on supply. I'm going to show you that. I didn't really want to go into all the details in episode 30. I just want to hit the basics. Today, I'm going to show you how to even do it better than what I talked about. We have a little more time here to talk about it. Before we jump into it, episode 29, I looked at a mobile home in Streetman, Texas, and thought this was interesting. I got an email, yesterday saying Streetman has been reduced. And if you remember, they wanted 35. My model said 34, thinking it needed everything. They've now dropped it to, look at that, 29. Look, if you have any interest in that property, that's a Fazio property. Reach out to Jade Vaughn at 214-646-9646. I have no association with Fazio. I just use their content for my videos. But I do think it's awesome. It's just very interesting to see some of the properties that we look at 4 or 5 days later, they've been reduced. And so, like I said, wholesalers, that are looking to sell to cash buyers, they're kind of like homeowners right now. They're going to try to get what they can. And if they can't, they're kind of quick to adjust their numbers to what they're hearing from the cash buyers. And I really respect that from these guys. And it also tells you they got this property for nothing, man. It's just like nothing. And it's a mobile home and you don't want that. So we're going to move on and talk about actual houses today, not this contraption. So I got the Cuney house first. Let me show you this one. I got this interesting opportunity here from Fazio in Smithville, Texas. Another city I don't know. What are these places? This is what we're going to look at. What we're going to realize is that, Smithville, if you look at it on a map, is south and east of Austin. It's out there, see it? But if you pull back, it's near Bastrop. It's in Bastrop County, and it's south and east, as you see. Honestly, it's just kind of an interesting spot. Like, I don't know who wants to live down there, but as you'll see, there are people living down there and buying those houses, and it looks like good living out there in Smithville. If I go back to the Cuney property that we're going to drill on, where is that? Well, that one is south and way east of Dallas-Fort Worth. And the interesting thing about Cuney, it's at the south end of Lake Palestine, which again is one of our nice lakes to go fish on or just boat on. It's a nice place. My family had a place on Lake Palestine for a few years back in the day. But Cuney is a little bitty town down there, kind of south of Tyler and the lake, near a city called Jacksonville. As we just saw, we kind of got lumped into Jacksonville. So I think what's interesting about both these properties that we're taking a look at today is that they're out in the country. Now, real estate investors generally do not want this. I'm just going to say flat out, as you noticed in episode 30, we looked at Arlington, Texas, where I live, and it had a 3.9 days on market. Arlington, Texas is still pretty hot. There's not enough houses, and there's a good demand for houses in Arlington, Texas. And so it's kind of a hotter area because it's a suburban area. It's right there, Arlington, the cities around Dallas, Fort Worth, and around Austin are very popular because they're clustered with that large city base. When you get out here into, there's a technical term we have in real estate, middle of nowhere. And that is kind of middle of nowhere. Look, if I zoom out, you lose Cuney. And if I come over here to Smithville, where this property was, it's pretty easy to lose Smithville too as you scroll out. But what I wanted to show you about, I'm going to show you the Smithville one first. Thought this was kind of interesting. It says new 2024 build, and I haven't looked at the pictures. I don't know if I'm going to on this one. I don't think I'm going to drill it down on this one today. But what I would just say is from that first picture is that porch is not level to that house, because this roof line appears to be leveled, should be level to the house, and the porch obviously declines. I mean, that's got to be 6 more inches on that pole there compared to that pole. There's no garage door. This may have been built in 2024, but it's not finished. And so I think that's what we'd see if we got into that one. ARV 257, they're looking for 133. But there's just a few things I wanted to show you guys about this, idea of buying a house out in the middle of nowhere. And applying what we talked about in our last episode, the episode 30, where we talked about calculating month supply. So if we go, and again, I hope I'm not confusing you guys. I'm trying to show you these tale of two cities, Smithville versus Cuney. Cuney being the one that's by Dallas and Smithville being the one that's by Austin, but not really close to either. And when I came and, I did the for sale in Smithville, and it says 113. And what I wanted to show you, this is in addition to kind of what I showed you the last time on episode 30, is that if you click on home type, in episode 30, these were all clicked on. And so if I click those on, there's 100 more properties. And what we'll find is that there's lots for sale, and all that kind of stuff. So technically what I'm telling you is to get your month supply right, you want to come in here, and generally no manufactured, no apartments, no lots, no multifamily. Houses, townhomes, condos. Those are considered single family residents. And in many cases, it's mostly the houses themselves. And so you'll get a lower number, and it won't include lots and things. And this really I found to be very important in places like these two cities, because in both cities, there are lots that people are selling in the anticipation that folks are going to move out to Cuney or to Smithville, these, cities that are kind of out in the country, if you will. One thing I did notice is that this Smithville has some pretty interesting and high dollar places, new construction. You can see there's a lot of new construction going on. And I think one thing that tells you, if you're buying a house to fix it and flip it, be real aware, as you look at what's for sale, if you're seeing a lot of new construction, not a lot of lots and stuff, there's activity building going on in your area. You're going to be competing with, some nice new homes in your area. But what I'll show you in a second is just kind of what I came to as a conclusion when I looked at, the for sale and the sold in these areas. Because one of the things you'll see here is that in Smithville, there's 113 for sale. In the last year, they only sold 34 homes in that area. Now, I think that, as you'll see, is going to be a really weird result in the month supply. It's going to be a lot of month supply. But I think what we're looking at here is a community where there's a lot of building going on. And so they're probably attracting people to move out into that area. And so the month supply is going to look kind of weird because there's a lot of new homes that have been built out there in an area where in the past there was hardly any homes sold. So the month supply is going to look crazy. And then same thing, if I come over here on to looking at, the other thing I wanted to tell you guys real quick is that these are typically small towns, and it's very difficult then, if we look at one to say, what is the month supply of that place? And as I mentioned, if there's a bunch of new homes being built, not many sold in the past, it's going to look like really crazy. Then we might step out to the county level. And so in that case, Smithville is in Bastrop County. And then when I looked at Bastrop County, let me make sure I did that. For sale, 1140 sold. I think I've got my 12 months turned on, do I? Yeah, I do. Okay, that's fine. 410. So what I'm telling you is that if you're looking at a small town like a Cuney or any of these places, Smithville, step out and look at the county. In the case of Cuney, the county was Cherokee County. And so if we go over to Zillow and we search Cherokee County, sold 394. They currently have for sale 304. Sounds like a lot of months supply or whatever. But again, here in Cherokee County, you see new builds going on out there. And so what does this end up telling us? Well, what I did is I summarized it in this here chart. In Cuney, now when I eliminated all the lots and manufactured homes and things like that to try to get, like, if I've got a single family home, I want to compare it to other single family homes, maybe townhomes and condos if the area has that. Most of these areas are not going to have a lot of townhomes and condos. But here's the crazy thing. In Cuney, basically, there was one sold for sale and one sold in the last 12 months. And then now, look at us. We got an opportunity to buy a house in Cuney, an area where there was one and one. That is actually, if I go over one, let me go this way, one sold per month. Well, you got only one house being divided by 12. So there's a 12-month supply. That's the point. If you got one for sale and you sold one in the last month, it's a 12-month supply. So what I did is I stepped out to their county and I saw that there was, and I think you saw this in the numbers. And by the way, the numbers change sometimes as I'm even doing my analysis. It's freaky. I guess it's Zillow is alive. But for sale in Cherokee County, 311, sold in the last month's 394. That's 33 a month. That gives them a 9-month supply. But when I looked over at this Smithfield area, this place right here, what I saw was 117 were for sale. Remember, a lot of these were like new builds and such. But in the last 12 months, only 34 were sold. So they had only sold in the last 12 months, 3 per month. That gives them an astonishing 41-month supply of homes. I think this is almost, number one, I'm assuming that the builder knows what they're doing and they've kind of planned this out and are putting homes out there in Smithville and that people want to go out to Smithville and live. I'm assuming that. But if you try to look at it through this traditional way of month supply or things like that, it looks really wacky because all of a sudden there's all these homes out there and there's only a few dozen sold in the last 12 months. So that's kind of crazy. I thought maybe if I stepped away from Smithville that I would see, more something like this where it's like, 9-month supply. small area, again, we're out in the middle of nowhere, right? That's what we're talking about here. These numbers would not look like this if we were looking at the suburbs around a big city. Those things we're going to see more 3, 4, 5, 6 months supply and that kind of thing. But here out in the middle of nowhere, this is kind of the problem, is that homes out in the middle of nowhere don't turn like they do in a suburban area. And if houses aren't turning, and you go out to Cuney or you go out to Smithville and you buy a house, there's a good chance that you are competing against new builds, which are going to be beautiful and nice, and they're going to be selling them with all kinds of incentives, and that you will hold these houses just for eternity. I potentially. Now, I think that the real thing that's kind of hard to calculate here is if there is a new attraction to Smithville and people are rushing out there to live, that these numbers will normalize over the next few years, as the numbers sold in the last 12 months will all of a sudden be not 34, but 134 and that kind of thing. Numbers will start to look different. But what I wanted to point out was that when I went out from Smithville and looked at Bastrop County, a lot of houses for sale. Again, a lot of new builds I saw out there. Sold in the last 12 months, only 410. That gives them 34 sold per month. And if you divide 34 into 1169, guess what you get? You also get 34 month supply in Bastrop County, Texas. This could be an indicator of kind of the issues with Austin, Texas. People that were just clamoring to move to Austin, Texas. It's a great place, to be honest. It's nicer than Dallas Fort Worth, but I don't want to live down there, but it's very nice. And go Longhorns. I love the UT and all that, so I love Austin. But that area just heated up, and then what happened when it got so expensive to live in Austin is that builders started to build out in these outer areas where they could go get land really inexpensively and put houses on it. So if people couldn't afford to live in Austin, they'd go live in Smithville. So this is something that I think you're going to see if you start to look at properties that aren't in the suburban market. Like generally what we want is there's the city, say Dallas, and there's the donut. And the donut is like Mesquite and Garland and, Grand Prairie and Arlington in the middle and things like that. That stuff is generally what you want. This stuff out in the middle of nowhere, generally not what you want. And it's because of some of these crazy factors that could be going on in the market. I tell you, of the two, this is why I said, well, number one, the Smithville property was just a little weird. Something going on for that to be a new build. That when I looked in that county at new builds, man, there were so many much nicer properties, right? Look at that. So, well, Cedar, yeah, it's Bastrop County, right? And so there's lots to choose from out there. I don't think in a market with lots of new builder homes that me coming down there and saving this house and finally finishing in it and putting it on the market, man, doesn't look like it has no driveway. So many issues. Driveway, $10,000, right? So I don't have any attraction to this house right off the bat. Just looking at the market, just craziness, all these new home builds. I'm going to have this thing to compete with that. Nah, I don't want that. So that drew me back to this beauty right here. This beauty right here. Made me wonder if my picture was right. This is supposed to be 773 County Road. Yeah, that's it. That's a sunny day. And that is not. And man, almost looked better in the Google Street View than it did in that. But okay, so this house, let's jump into the numbers on this one. I realize it's been a longer episode. I wanted to kind of build on what we had talked about in the last episode. I'm going to get back to kind of more of the normal, just looking at each house one by one on the episode. So I'm packing a lot into this one. I hope you're hanging with me. Hang in there. Let's go look at this one. we're seeing that this house in Cuney, Texas, remember where one house was sold and one house was bought, giving us a 12-month supply, is that we've got a 284 ARV. They show really as tax value. They're not claiming it as after repaired value, but claiming it as tax value. They're saying your opportunity is 139. As usual, I haven't looked at the pictures of the house other than kind of, what was there in the email and seeing it on Zillow. Now, remember let's get back into just our normal model of what we're doing here at the Cash Offer Masterclass. We're taking the subject property, we're taking the address, we're dropping it in, we're getting the square feet. I went on to Zillow, to Realtor, to Redfin, and to my property radar service. I grabbed what each of them had as the value of the home. We're using that to calculate the after repaired value or the ARV. We're coming up with a 311 average. I see two of them are significantly lower, two of them significantly higher. I come over to here, that's the whole power of averaging, I guess. You come over here at 135, that's 310. If I make it 136 per square foot for that house, it goes to 312. I really don't want to go over my average, so I'm just going to go back to 135 per square foot. At 135 per square foot, we've got a 310, 500 after repaired value. And if the house was in perfect condition with our 70% discount factor, we could pay $217, $350 for this house. Let's go back and look at it real quick. They're only looking for 139. That sounds like there's a lot of room. The other thing is their tax value of 284 is significantly lower than what we found in our ARV calculation using the external sources that we have. So that's pretty interesting. We're starting with a higher ARV. Well, again, they didn't claim it as ARV. They just claimed it as, the tax value, which is probably right. And so we're jumping into this with what we think is a property that's, worth $300,000, and that is available at more than 50% discount. That sounds pretty good. It does look pretty rough. Are you ready to look at the pictures? Let's go. I love the pictures. The pictures are my favorite part. I like the houses. I do like the numbers, and I like calculating them. But man, I like houses. I like looking at them. We're starting off with a picture taken in the dark. Somebody snuck in there, and I'm telling you, that is a tub. Now, year built? Question mark. What did Zillow say? Zillow said no year built. See, they don't know when this thing was created. Nope, nobody knows that. Okay. Back to the model. Excuse me. Back to the pictures. Forgot where I was for a second. Okay, got a dirty bathtub. That is an ancient bathtub. This is a clawfoot bathtub you'd have what year? Probably 1950, 1945, something like that. This house old. We're in there, and I have never seen that design in paneling. It's like pieces. I don't like it, but I don't know. It's not horrible. That's just different. They got one of those corner pieces in the molding up there. I don't know if they knew what they were doing with that. Popcorn ceilings. Yes, we got the popcorn. And who knows where we are in this house. I'm thinking formal dining room, because that's what you call them, that piece of furniture, where you put all your dishes and such for those meals at Thanksgiving. We only pull them out once a time. They got that paneling all the way around this room. I've really never seen anything like that. If you look at it, it's not like sheet paneling. It's like these sections of this kind of herringbone sort of style to it. And it's kind of growing on me. But that paneling is not growing on me. Oh, this is a little video. I can tell it's only a few seconds. Look at that bathtub. That doesn't look as bad. Honestly, rewind. Go full screen. Shiny wall. I don't know. There's something. I think that could be actually, savable. All right, we're in probably the main living area. That might be dining. There's some demo going on. How you guys doing? Y'all working on it? Thinking about buying it? Bought it and don't want it? I understand every one of those aspects of real estate. Yeah, definitely a bunch of work has started to happen here. This looks like an enclosed porch area. Honestly, look at that. You get you one of these lounge chairs. You sit out there with a mint julep. And the living in Cuney, Texas could be really nice. The windows don't look horrible. Look at that. Those actually look like decent windows. Man, that's a huge deal. As you guys, particularly you guys are going, you find an old house, and a lot of times they've fixed the house up. It doesn't look that bad, but the windows are just horrible. So yeah, we like that. I like those windows. I like that little closed-in porch. I think I would do something a little different with it. Lots of paneling, but it's not normal. It's not like the norm. Look at that. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's just a reflection. Maybe I'm just getting sucked into the void there. Okay, so siding looks okay. Main living area, kitchen, probably dining, main living, front door, all kinds of paneled surfaces. That almost looks like shiplap or whatever they call it. I think it's what they call it. That looks kind of cool. I like that. And somebody came in here and put these exaggerated corners, in the internal and, I guess the inset and outset or whatever, these corners. That's just a funny thing to spend your time on when it looks like there's a lot of other things to be done here, like getting rid of the popcorn. Again, if I was going to rent it, I'd leave the popcorn so that they could enjoy it on movie night. But if I'm not going to rent it, if I'm going to flip it, I got to get that popcorn off the ceiling. Nobody wants that. You also don't want this flooring. That's a old flooring. I think that might be a tile. It might be a linoleum. Yeah, it's hard to tell. There's definitely some problems going on over there. This is, as we, get so far into these, we start to just realize, oh, wow, we're looking at a full cosmetic, This is interesting. They've tiled the walls, and this looks like a laundry room. If you look at the washer, the connection for the washer back there, that outlet doesn't look right. And so there's some questionable decisions that have been made, or maybe they didn't. I'm thinking somebody's come in here and they've started working on this thing. They got over their head and they now need to get out of it. It's more than they can. This is a big project. This is a big cosmetic project. It's lots of finishing, lots of work to be done. I do love that. Look at the organization. We all should be ashamed of our breaker boxes when we see this bad boy right here. Look at that. Every one of them labeled and looking very nice. I think the guy who lived here was an electrician. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I rarely see this. I rarely see a box fully labeled like that. I don't know if the guy living here was a plumber. It's probably not. Or a tile person. Guy or girl. Sorry. I do want to point out that breaker box that I was just adoring here is right smack in the middle of what appears to be a bathroom. I'm guessing that toilet actually goes there. But I think it's a laundry room with a toilet and a breaker box. That's what I think that was. It was almost like a extra. What did they say, bathroom wise? They said this is a 4-2. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And we see some stuff that looks like it's been, recently worked on. Anytime I see a house that's for sale at a significant discount and I look in there, and sometimes you'll see people working in the photos, sometimes you'll just see that work has started or some work was being done, you've got an investor that kind of came in, probably didn't have the capital, got in over their head and had to get out. In here we see that is a vinyl floor product. You can see that was a seam and it's peeling up that seam. All that flooring needs to go. It's full cosmetic. Love it that they show the pictures under the sink. It's the double sink. It's a double sink. I don't see a disposal. If this was a kitchen, we definitely want to add a disposal. So that would need a little plumbing work. A lot of work here to finish this place out. And as you can see, somebody started doing something. Yeah. All the cabinets, they can be painted, but honestly, those don't look great when you paint them. But they could be painted. Maybe put some handles on them so you're not having to grab the edges. That drives me crazy. Yeah. All right. We're going to move along. We spent a lot of time together on this episode. I want to respect your time, but I just want you to see everything that we can see. Just got vanities sitting out in the middle of the main room. Somebody was a working, and when you buy it, maybe it includes all this wood that they went out and bought for some reason. Oh, moldings and stuff. Hey, there could be some stuff there. That could be. I was about to make fun of it. I'm not making fun of it because that stuff's not cheap, and every room needs finish out with the trim. So again, popcorn, and not only just popcorn, but inconsistent ceiling. That's one of the reasons you want to redo them, is smooth out any problems like that line you see up there. Walls don't look too horrible, don't look too cracked up or anything. Have you guys seen any cracks while we're looking at this? I mean, that you can see some bumpiness in the texture, but it, could have been a crack, but it's not a crack right now, so I don't care about it. No trim, not finished out. I don't know if that's a wallpaper product, needs to come out. It should just be so it's a full texture. There's a lot of work to be done here. And then what are you going to do with all that tile stuff? I might. It depends on the condition of it. Like when you get in and you actually look at it. Dang, there's just so much of it. You know what I might do with it is paint it, or, maybe just paint it. Or paint some of it and leave one as an accent wall. I don't know. But all that vinyl flooring's got to go. Everything needs to be cosmetically done. Why did they tear all the trim off the door? I don't know, because I don't think that they put that crazy paneling. There's no Home Depot that's going to sell you that paneling product. So I don't know where you even get something like that. And, look here, we can see it a little more closely. I wonder if that's even wood. I'm going to assume it's wood, like a wood paneling, obviously. But man, I don't love it. There's a bedroom. You know what? Do you see that in the wall? That line? That's what manufactured homes have. Wait a minute. Nothing here said manufactured. And it doesn't look like a manufactured home. It's just weird. Like, manufactured homes have their walls and panels like that, so you can see seams. Wonder if this is like the house in episode 29 that, it's like a Frankenstein that somebody built onto. Oh, and going back, that paneling over there or whatever that wood product is, I don't hate that. It just, that almost looks kind of cool. But I do, I said this was growing on me. It's grown off me. I don't like that. It's like they're shining a flashlight in here. Remember I told you guys we go see so many houses and they're like dungeons, you know, they're so closed up and they sometimes with stuff over the windows. Um, this might be the master with an ensuite and a closet. That's what I'm going to go ahead and think that is. And that ensuite would be the second bathroom. That looks like the no. Countertop here. What am? Maybe that's the closet. There's the second bathroom. Yeah, old clawfoot tubs. Unless they were just like into retro stuff, this may be like a really old core building. Remember, we don't know the year it was built. Here again, you could probably save those. May or may not, probably not save this vanity. You've got very old, grotesque fixtures. So there's a bunch of plumbing work to be done here, I think. And you might find yourself having to replace those bathtubs. And then let's get under here and look real quick. I like that picture. Thank you for sharing it. We do see that they had to get into that wall at some point, and they did that very, very professional patch job. You can barely even tell, right? I had to tell you that they got into the wall there. You wouldn't have seen that if I didn't show you. Wow. But honestly, what I'm seeing here doesn't disturb me. That actually looks pretty good. And thank you again. I think this might be, no, yeah, this is the other one. There's two of them, and they're showing both of us. And yeah, they had to get in there and do some work back there. Happens all, particularly in an older house. It does tell me it's not a horrible plumbing job. There's a little plumbing work to be done. Maybe not everything needing to be completely redone. In this room, dang, this room feels nice and bright and light with its 30-year-old ceiling fan and wallpaper and popcorn ceiling and moldings that look, somebody came in here and put little corners in there. They look like dirt dauber. We a dirt dauber nest. You know what a dirt dauber is. They're wasps that build nests out of mud. Okay, and we got a water heater, and I'm going to say that bad boy looks old, and that's the blow off. It goes to nowhere. Man, I don't know about that. What did they tell us back in the email? They said no known issues on the big five. Yep, but I think that's an old water heater. So if it's working, great. If it's not, or it could have a limited additional life remaining. Here is, I think, the third bedroom. I do like that bed. If they would leave that, that would be a selling point. Look at that bed. That's pretty nice. Wow, pretty cool. Okay. Kind of typical. I think we're over here on the bed, looking back out to the hallway. I believe that might be our closet there on the left side. Yes. That's like a little, look on that ceiling up there. That could be a number of things, but I think, there, at some point there was a roof leak. That water got in up there and caused all those problems. You got to figure out, is that from the past and the source was fixed, or is the source still there and it's up to you to fix it? And you'll see here, it looks like some damage. That's French for it's messed up. Yeah, some work to be done there. A little bit more extensive work to be done there. I feel like I'm going to have to throw some plumbing at this just for all the plumbing unknowns. And full cosmetic. We've been in this house forever, so I'm going to kind of click on through, get on out. Look at that old thing. Those are cool, like for an Airbnb that's in a historic town, yeah, you want to take a bath in one of these for your daily living. Nah, you don't really want that. You want a modern bathtub, shower. There's no shower. The toilet here, you can see the seat's just sitting there with not even mounted. It's broken, and who knows what condition that's in. We're going to throw some plumbing money at this house, and I think I'm going to think $800 on a water heater. Look at that. What was going on the ceiling? That strip fell down. So the ceiling didn't crack. What it did was it shifted and it broke, kind of broke the lines where the sheetrock was connected. And that caused that strip of the sheetrock tape to literally just fall off the ceiling. It's falling off right there. This house has some shifting issues and things like that. And I think I could chalk that up to a very poor repair. Kind of lost. Don't know where I am. Man, we keep coming back. But, you guys like looking at houses like me. I guess it looks very shallow, does it not? That looks strange. Something's off with that photo. The vanity doesn't look bad. Look, that actually looks almost new. So I don't know about the faucet. And they're showing us the inside of that one. So somebody did do some plumbing work in here, and they're kind of showing it off. I think these are things they had to do. They came into this house. They started fixing it. They only got so far down the road. They did some demo. They added little corner pieces on the trim and the molding, the crown molding, for whatever reason. I think they fixed the drains and things off that. But let's jump into the numbers. It is a full cosmetic. It needs full repairs, the general repairs. And I think it's going to need, let's see if I put 0.5, gives me 6,000. What if I put, I'm just thinking, really what I would do with this place is I would replace those tubs. And that means kind of having to build in and tile and everything, whole showers, which really is part of full cosmetic, but the framing and the tubs aren't there and all that kind of stuff. 6,000 probably about right. What if I went 0.7 or 70%? Give me closer to 9. I think that could help me deal with a lot of the issues that I saw in there with the plumbing. We're going to, for the purpose of our exercise today, assume there is no electrical. We didn't see, as you guys noticed, pictures of the HVA system inside or outside. That kind of worries me. I also didn't see window units. So I'm going to assume it has it. But that's one of the things, if I got into this, I would immediately want to find out. The other thing is roof. They're basically saying no known issues. We didn't see any really good pictures of the roof. And, but look at it on Google Street View. I'm going to assume that roof is okay. So where are we at to end a sentence in a preposition? We are at $45K on repairs for this 2,300 square foot home that could be worth $310, $311 fixed up. That puts us $310 as our ARV times 70% minus the $45, $655 in repairs takes us to $171, $695 compared to what they want, $139. I think there's probably more going on here. Like, in other words, we're significantly higher. I think there's more going on here. I think there's a reason they didn't come out with this 311 or 310 ARV, which they could have supported, and they came out with this. If I went to the model and I made our number closer to 284, I wonder what that would be. 115 It's 264, 125. It's 287. Let's go to 122. Nah, 123. All right. At 283. So now we're around kind of the number that they're showing, and we're at a 152 if that was our ARV. I have a feeling when we do our calculation with the external sources and we get 311, but the wholesaler is not claiming a 311. In fact, they're showing us this tax value number, which is considerably lower, $30,000 lower, that we should use their number. I'm not saying we throw our ARV calculation out the window, because it is telling us something. It tells us that when we fix this house and put it back on the market, it will probably, our ARV will be well supported by the sites, and so people won't say, well, the Zillow says it's half that. The Zillow will definitely, unless it drops like a rock, it'll be supporting our 285 or whatever it is. Remember, Realtor had it at 287 and Property Radar was just 291. So I think our ARV was a little high. And for all those reasons, I would probably here at the end lower it and say, I'm probably looking at more a 152. I have a feeling there are some other issues here. Like, what if there is some foundation work to be done? What if there is some electrical work to be done? Then I'm getting closer to that 135, 139 for them. See how we can play with the model, kind of think about what ARV is telling us. Think about what the wholesaler's telling us. They had their eyes on this property, and somebody took a shot at this property before and they failed, and they're bailing out. So I think the 139, 135 range, we're going to assume, it needs more work than what this is telling us, the no known issues block there. So I think that's it for today. Man, this one has been a long one. For those of you that stuck with me, you are like in the 1% club. I don't think most people watch this video till the end. If you did and you're not subscribed, please do that. And, like the videos, help us build this community at we're at cashoffermasterclass.com. You can just search Cash Offer Masterclass on Google or YouTube, and you'll go right to the channel and you can watch the latest videos. If you haven't seen the Calculating Cash Offer videos, episode 20, or the Is It a Good Time to Buy Real Estate, episode number 30, where we talk about month supply, go and see those two special episodes. I hope you had a wonderful time today. I certainly did. I just love hanging out with you guys. I'm kind of speeding up here because I feel like I've taken too much time in this video. I got to go.